Hello, everyone. I'm Reggie Pahuja. I'm the Archive Data Manager here at The Ohio State University. Welcome. This session is Smart Uses for Your Smartphone Mobile GIS Apps, and we'll have Tony Yates, the presenter. Tony graduated from Penn State University with a focus in GIS. He's a certified GIS professional and is responsible for managing the GIS department at Langan. He has been with the firm for 8 years and specializes in utilities and facility management GIS. So here's Tony. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you guys for coming. So what we're going to go over today is basically just some ways that you can use your smartphone to help you with your job and your everyday lives. So I thought this was a pretty fitting topic. If you guys heard Nick's keynote yesterday, you obviously heard that there's phones everywhere, and a lot of people are using GIS, and something like 83% of people are using their phones for work. So this seemed like a pretty fitting topic to discuss. So just a quick outline, we're going to go over a couple of different topics on how you can use your phone. The first is going to be data collection, how you can actually go out and collect new data and update your assets with your phone. The next is going to be inspections and surveys, and I mean surveys not in the sense of going out and survey locating, but actual collecting data through surveys like Survey 123. Then how you can use your smartphone to view data when you're out in the field so that you don't have to print maps and bring them out. We're going to touch on work order management as well. I know a lot of people have systems in place for that, but this is just another option on how you can do that. And then also crowdsourced applications. You guys have a wealth of people on your campus that can provide you information with the students and the visitors, so it's a good opportunity to have them pulling in data for you as well. So just to get started with data collection, there are obviously accuracy concerns or considerations that you have to take into account when doing this. Not all devices are equal when you're collecting data, so a smartphone is not going to be as accurate as using a total station when you're surveying. So something to be aware of if you need that higher level of accuracy. Some of these collection methods might not be appropriate for what you're trying to collect. So just something to keep in mind. A quick table here just shows you the different types of levels of accuracy you can get with these devices, ranging from your typical iPhone or Samsung phone up to a total station. As you go up in price, there's obviously more training required for some of these, and the higher the accuracy as well. So I'm sure everybody's probably seen this at some point when they've been looking for a restaurant or directions. You pull up Google Maps and you see on your phone that you're where that blue dot is or somewhere inside of that blue circle within a city block somewhere. So that's about a 1,000-foot radius. So for most of the stuff you're collecting, that's probably not going to be accurate enough for what you're trying to do. So everyone's seen this, just something to keep in mind and be aware of. So with that, there's a couple of ways to overcome those accuracy inefficiencies with these mobile devices. If anybody's familiar with the Trimble R2 or other Bluetooth receivers, these receivers are great because they are sub-meter accuracy receivers that can Bluetooth to any device, whether it's your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop, and you can interchange devices. So I can take it out with my phone on one day and Bluetooth to it, and then somebody else can take it out the next day and use that same device on their personal device. So it's kind of a BYOD, bring your own device type of accuracy with it. The ways we collect data with these type of instruments is by using GPS. The other way we can do it is we also use aerial locations. For a lot of things, if you don't need to be real accurate, let's say you're grabbing a manhole location in the street, you just need to know what intersection you're at. You can pull up an aerial and manually drop a point for that location, so you're not relying on the actual internal GPS of the phone. You can override your location by any maps that you load on. Another way that we're seeing a lot of people use it now is loading in their custom maps, so a lot of floor plans. Obviously, GPS units are not great when you're inside of a building. They're even worse when you're in a basement. So when you're collecting any locations inside, you can load in a floor plan so that you can actually know if I'm collecting the location of this podium, I know where I am in relation to this room, I can see the floor plan, and I can drop an approximate point for where this is located. The other way we can collect new data is by updating existing locations. If you've already gone through the process of surveying and locating all of your information, so you have them in your existing GIS, you can use your smartphone to go around and collect new information on these things. So if you get a BIM model and you have locations of pipes, but you might not know the size or the material or any kind of maintenance information, you can have that location loaded into your mobile phone and go and just update some new attributes as you're doing your work throughout the day. Another great thing that we're seeing is collecting site photos. You also heard Nick talk about in his keynote speech that his boss gets out of the car every day and takes photos of certain things. Taking a photo and emailing is great, but if you can take a photo and drop a point and tie some information to it and then send that off to somebody through the app, you're just getting a little bit more information, and then it's all cataloged in your enterprise GIS system as well. So it's cataloged already for you, and then you can create work order requests off of that as well if you need to. Another nice thing about having these phones is everything can be in real time now. As long as you have cell connectivity or Wi-Fi service, you can push all of your updates as soon as you collect it on your phone or your tablet right up to your enterprise system, whether it's on ArcGIS Online or Portal or hosted on a local server. You can do all of that in real time, or if you're in a basement with no signal, you can download the application, collect all of your data, and sync it back when you get somewhere that has a signal. So one of the examples that we've done with this type of technology is a building inventory. So this is an example where we've loaded in our floor plan because inside of a building we can't get great locations. Just going around and we're collecting office assets. So one of the examples was we went and we collected a server room location and just cataloging what information and what hardware we have in this actual server room for the IT department. So we use the floor plan, we go in, we collect the information, we take a photo of the server so that we have that cataloged, that anybody else from any other office can pull that up and get that information. And then moving forward with this study, we actually did a Wi-Fi analysis for an entire building. So you've heard, throughout the past couple of days that there's more devices online now, and a lot of campuses are planning for all these devices. One thing you have to account for is signal strength in certain areas. So you heard that they're putting Wi-Fi access signals in every dorm room. Some places that don't go that far into it can just map out where their signals are and the signal strength by different locations. So what we did here was we went around a building and collected in different areas at different desks, what is the signal strength, what is the MAC address from it, and what is the frequency that it's tied to. And by grabbing all of that information in a couple of different locations, we were able to load all this stuff into ArcGIS Online and do some quick heat mapping analysis for where there is good signal strength for Wi-Fi. So you can see there's a couple of dead areas in this office where it's red. The left area there is actually the lobby and the elevators, so they aren't too concerned about that. But the poor staff up here have no Wi-Fi, and it's a little tough when they're trying to load Spotify during the day to work. So we identified that as an area where we need to put a new Wi-Fi access point. And this was all just one staff walking around with a tablet, collecting a couple locations in an afternoon, and we were able to produce this map and present it to the IT department and said, hey, you have a dead spot in the office where certain staff are not getting coverage, or employees in a library can't get on the Wi-Fi for there. So another good case example that we've used this for is we did an entire campus sign inventory for SCSU in Connecticut. They were looking at a project with an architect where they wanted to kind of update their signage on campus. They found that visitors were having a little bit of a tough time getting around campus and finding all of their signage or their wayfinding signs. So what they wanted to do was first understand all of the signs that they have on campus and document what they look like. So we went out on campus and we collected over 800 signs in about 3 days. And this was a field staff out in the field just with a regular Samsung tablet. He had Wi-Fi hotspot on him, so he was collecting all this in real time. We set up a web viewer for the client as well, so the facilities department was watching the progress as we went through it. So we went through and just, look on the right there, he's using Esri's collector application, and we pre-built in a couple of different sign types so that he just clicked from a drop-down menu and collected each sign, took a picture of each sign so that we have documented signs and the architect could see what the sign looks like now. And going through, then they just presented all this on a web viewer so you can see each of these points is color-coded by the type of sign that was collected with a location, with a couple of photos as well. And they wanted to know a couple of things like, is this sign lit up? Is there already power running to it? And some rough dimensions. They wanted to know if a sign was 10 feet tall or if a sign was just a little no parking or a handicap parking accessible sign. So they collected a couple little information and just as many drop downs as we could build, and it was very quick and easy for the staff to do. And so we completed the entire campus in less than 3 days. And this was just some of the signs that they were collecting. So you can see these signs are existing, they give you some information, but when you're driving by at 25 miles an hour, it might not stand out as nice as some of the new signs that they were designing. So all of this data was cataloged, presented the web viewer, we downloaded a geodatabase with all of the photos, presented it to the client, gave it to the facilities department, and they were able to host it on their system at the end of it. So another way that we're using phones these days is inspections and surveys. So a lot of facilities departments have to go out and inspect a lot of their assets. We've seen a lot of people in the past have a standard form that they'll go out and fill out and then come back to the office and have an admin or a staff type this up and enter it into their system. We're trying to go as paperless as possible nowadays. There's a big initiative for that, the sustainability goals that we've heard about as well. This is just one step in getting us to that goal. So by using Esri's Survey 123 application, which is a very powerful application, if you haven't used it yet, I highly recommend you look into it. It's smart forms. So what that means is you can actually build in logic in the background so that if you select one feature and one radial button you select, it can actually populate multiple other options for you based on your responses. So the form, as you're filling it out, will actually learn where the next question is going to be, what the next response might be, and it can give you different questions based on your responses. So it's a really nice user interface too, where you don't have to go through a 10-page form if you're only filling out a couple of pieces of information. It limits it to only what you need to see. So the nice thing about this is all your assets, you inspect them more than once. And we've seen a lot of people where they have to inspect their assets, then they archive that data, and they go out for the next round of inspections. What we're setting up now is a lot of related tables, so you can inspect an asset 10, 15, 30 times, and all of that information is readily available. There's no archiving anymore. There's just a related table where you can pull up all of that information and see it at a moment's notice in the field, which is very powerful for a lot of people, that they can go out and inspect something and see the past 5 years of inspections to see if the maintenance or any features are not performing properly. They can see the trend while they're out in the field. So you're able to review these historic documents, and you're also able to attach any kind of as-built or any kind of plans, maintenance documents to these as well, and view them in the field. So this is an example that we did for a local college, Ursinus College in Pennsylvania, where we used Survey 123 to help them do a tree survey. Hopefully none of you have any issues with the ash borer beetle or any other invasive species, but this is something that's kind of prevalent in the area around us. So they wanted to have a nice, clean catalog of all of their trees on campus. So we built a very simple application here where they can go out, and they actually used student volunteers that were taking a GIS course to provide all of the work for this. So it was pretty much free labor for them. But we created this application with them. It's a very simple application where you're dropping a location on campus of where the tree is based on an aerial, and then they were cataloging the date and then the condition of the tree. And that's just a slider bar to say, does the tree look dead or does it look very healthy? And then they can type in the diameter for the breast height, 4 feet up off the ground, just measuring it approximate to say, is it a small tree, is it a large tree? So they have an idea of what trees they want to salvage and what trees they can kind of bear to part with. And then we had the tree species all listed out there with photos too. A lot of students are not familiar with all the different species that were on campus. So in an effort to help them, what we were able to do is just build this in the background so that when they're out in the field, there's pictures that they can compare to the tree. So they didn't have to carry an additional booklet with them or any other information to help them with this catalog. It's all in this application here. And then as they're going, they can sign off and say, I've collected this tree, all the information is correct. And they can also go through and take a photo of the tree on campus so that they have that as well tied to it. All of this information that they collected was actually shared to opentreemap.org, if anybody's familiar with that organization. So it's all loaded on there so that the public can view it as well. And one of the nice things that's available with Survey 123 now is the ability to create reports. So for any of these other inspections, this is for a tree survey, but imagine this is you collecting things on your outfall locations for stormwater management. What you can do is generate a report that you can customize to whatever you want it to be with your logo, your standard format, and all the information that was collected through each of these apps is now available to, with the click of a button, you can export this to your standard format report, and you can now do batch reporting as well. So we collected a little over 400 trees. If we wanted to export 400 reports, in the past that might have taken you a couple of days with a couple of students running through it. Now it's you click a button and you let the computer run for as long as that takes, 15, 20 minutes to spit out that many PDFs. So it's a very powerful tool, and this is just one example of a use case on a campus, but just imagine other things that you inspect and produce reports for. We do this for a lot of MS4 reporting in Pennsylvania as well. So these custom forms can match anything that you have in a Word or Excel document. It's all just customized through a Word document that you upload, and then you're able to print out all the attributes for. So another use case that we have here is showing our Esri collector application that we built for sidewalk conditions for the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, PA. They were undergoing a project where they wanted to, since they're in a very city environment, they wanted to make sure that it's a very walkable campus. And one of the big things they had was sidewalk conditions. Since it's in the city, it's not just their students that use it, so they wanted to make sure that there was no cracked pavement, no low areas that flooded after a rain event. So we built a custom application for them to go out and use Esri's collector and just catalog all these locations. So again, they had a lot of student volunteers that would help with this. So that's one thing I really want to highlight is you can build these applications and let your students populate it for you, which is a great help for a lot of these universities. But we pre-built in some things of what type of sidewalk issue is there. And they were able to go through and just use this application to go in and type in some things like, is there ADA improvements? ADA wheelchair accessibility is a big thing on a lot of campuses too. If you've got a large gap between the pavement and your sidewalk, you might not be able to get a wheelchair up that, or it might not be compliant with ADA requirements. So that's one thing that a lot of people want to be concerned with and make sure that they're complying with that. So these were just kind of built-in criteria so that they could catalog, is this a high priority or is it a low priority or in between? They could catalog all this with just with a drop-down, so there's no more one student lists it as critical, another student lists it as high priority. There's consistency with the way the data is being collected because these are the only options available for you. So we build in these options, and then what type of sidewalk material is it? Not all of theirs is paved concrete. They also have some brick pavers as well. They have cobblestone in the area. There was different things that they could catalog just through all these, is it broken? Is it heaved? All these different categories. And then they can list out the material that they're finding as well. So just to show an example, this was one that was cataloged. There's obviously a puddle right in front of the SEPA stairs there, so that's something that they want to fix so that students aren't traipsing through a big puddle on their way to class. All of this information was available in this web viewer here so that the staff and the facility group could go through and view all of these in real time as they're being collected so they can start to see, and we color-coded everything here by the status and the priority of it, and also by the type of repair that's needed. So they could quickly see where their immediate hazards are outlined in red. They can get an idea of where there's a lot more traffic and start to build that kind of spatial analysis of, is one sidewalk being used heavily and others aren't? Do we need to perform more repairs in one area? Why are we performing more repairs in this area? And they can start to build that picture off of it. So now that we've gone through all this collecting data, it's also a very powerful tool to view data. A lot of people are out in the field responding to different things. They want to be able to access all that information. In the past, it used to be you had to print out maps, and a lot of people carried around a book of maps in their truck or a laptop in their truck that they'd have to go back and forth to review. That's kind of a thing of the past. Everybody now has a smart device in some sense, whether it's a phone or a tablet available to them. You can now load all of that information on there, and you can have it at a moment's notice with the click of a button. So just a couple of examples here. This is on an iPad here, just viewing all of the utilities on a campus. They can click on each utility line, pull up all the attribute information with it, and they can turn different utilities on and off so they're not seeing everything at once. It gets to be a little bit of a jumbled mess when there's 12 different utilities running down the street. Another example here, this is just that signage inventory that we took at Southern Connecticut. This is the viewer version of it where they can just pull up and view the information that was collected on it. So you can see here we also have it available in Collector where you can collect information and you can also start to do some measurements in the field. So you can see here there's this red line outlining this area. They can do a rough area that's about 9,300 square feet there. So with a click of a button on a tablet here, I can start to get some estimates of how far away different signs are, how far I am from certain things, all on my tablet or phone just by pulling up this one application. Like I said before, this is all real-time updating as long as you have cell or Wi-Fi signal. And there's a kind of a no need for paper maps anymore, which is great. Coming from a utility company about 9 years ago, I worked for an electric company, and during a hurricane event, they were state of emergency for the state of New Jersey because there was massive flooding. And we were called in, and we had to produce books of maps for every field employee that went out. And I can tell you right now, when guys are getting called in at 3 in the morning, and they're waiting on you to print out 75 pages for them so that they can start working at 3 in the morning, they're not very happy. So if you can have something like this where they can just view it without having to go that extra step to wait for printed maps or to come into an office, if they can wake up and view it on this, it's much nicer and much more easy for the field staff as well. So just an example here, when you click on each one of these, you can pull up these photos. And this is one of the photos I showed earlier, but now this is viewed on a tablet instead of the web viewer, so I can see it while I'm out in the field making my changes. This is an example of some of the inspections that we collect too. You can see here they're all listed by date. A couple of times people didn't fill out the date, so it just says inspection. But you can see on this outfall, I can see all of my previous inspections for the year, so I can start to see, was this cleaned regularly? Is that why I'm seeing clogs, or is it something that we have to clean every 3 months because of storm events? And just pulling up all the information about each of these inspections, you can see what's in there. So all of that can be tied into work order management. Like we've heard before, a lot of this stuff, you can have your students submit things where there's maybe a light is out or a sidewalk is cracked, any of that kind of stuff. All of that can be submitted through work order management with Esri. This is a desktop and a mobile application. The way it works, if you're not familiar with it, you have one person listed as the kind of work assigner or the manager. This is the person who can sit in their office and assign work to 7 different employees or 12 different employees, however many you have. But this can be, they have a layer that comes in that says, I need this light bulb changed on building 348. And they can look at it and say, okay, I'm going to assign that to John. He's over in that building working today. I can just enter a new one. I can put in some context. I can attach a photo. I can attach a PDF work order. Whatever I need to attach this, I can drop a point, and I can load in also base map information. So you can see here, this is just an example from Penn State University with all their buildings loaded, and we have a little sample data set of their utilities loaded in as well. So I can drop a point on an inlet grate and say, this grate is clogged, there's been a lot of leaves in the fall, this needs to be cleared. I can assign it to one of my employees, and they'll get a notification that says you need to go clear this storm grate. So this is the workers' side of things that they can have on their mobile device. This is for reporting outages or assigning work orders. What they'll get here on the right is basically just this work order assignment. So I've been assigned to clean this storm grate, and I know I need to go out. I can pull up the map, see where it's located, and see any information about the work order. So here's what was entered in by my manager. It just says the storm drain is clogged. Please see the attached photo. I have my attached photo on it as well that I can bring up and see, okay, that's definitely clogged. That's not going to do us any good in a rain event. I now know I have to go out there, clear this off, and then I can click on this and submit finished and send it back to my manager. So one of the last things that we're going to talk about is crowdsourcing information. You guys have a lot of students available at your resources. They can provide information for you as well. This was just a standard report that we built for demo purposes for reporting graffiti or any other kind of blemishes on a building, we'll say. And what you can do is you can have a QR code, and you can post these around your campus or on any devices you want, have them online. And if you actually scan this QR code, it'll bring up that Survey 123 form for you on any device. If you're iOS, you can use your native camera and it'll work. I don't believe Android's there yet, so you need a QR reader, but they're freely available. And you can customize this to have your logo on it. You can have pictures of your organization. You can have pictures of the building, whatever you want to put on there. But these are really great because it has that pre-built form in there, and you just scan it and you can enter your information, click submit, and it can be anyone from the public that comes to you, and then you have to take a look at something. Same rules apply. They can attach photos, they can sign off on it, they can drop a location. All of that pre-built information is in there available for them. And the last thing is just presenting information to the public. You guys have a lot of stuff that you want to get out to the masses, whether it's your students or visitors. If you have a lot of campus activities, you have a big school for sports, you have a lot of visitors coming in for those game day events, you can create these what's called story maps that are available to put on any device and read them on mobile devices. This is just an example of an event that we had, a tree lighting event. This is a big event in Pennsylvania where they have one of the oldest Christmas tree lighting ceremonies in the country. It's a very popular event. It brings in usually about 3,000 to 4,000 people every year to a small township. And they were struggling on how to get this information out to people. They put it on their website, but we told them you can do a customized application that's loadable on a mobile device or a web app so that this can get out there to everybody. So it's really great to put out that information. You can customize this. These take about 10, 15 minutes depending on the content. And it's really nice. You can scroll through it like a standard website and get all the information. And you can load maps into these as well. So you can load in things like where to park, how to get into the events, emergency access, that type of stuff. So with that, we'll just wrap it up here. Always like to end with a quote that's applicable here. Senior VP of Coca-Cola, she said, if your plans don't include mobile, your plans are not finished. And I think you've seen that throughout this conference, that everything is going mobile. So I encourage you to start thinking about how you can use your devices to do a little bit more efficient work with your jobs. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Yes.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Gathering the information, was there any sort of a pilot done initially to do a quick sample of the signs and trees before they did 600 of them and realized they missed information?
Yeah, so the question was just, did we do any pilot studies to make sure that this is exactly what we wanted to see? And absolutely. What we did with the signage inventory was we did a small parking lot and collected a few signs. I think we did about 15 to 20 and submitted that. The nice thing was because it was in real time, we collected them in the morning, submitted to the facilities. They were able to review it and approve it before lunch so that we weren't held up at all. So we were ready to go in the afternoon then. Any other questions? Yes. I'm sorry?
How are the photos stored? I think maybe the tree example that you have that for
Yes.
a lot of photos.
So the question is, how are the photos stored through these applications? So all of these photos are getting cataloged into our GIS enterprise database as attachments to the features. So it's just a related table that stores attachments in it. So as you're collecting these photo locations, it's stored in our enterprise database that we usually host through Portal and share to ArcGIS Online. If you have your data stored on ArcGIS Online, it'll be available on there as well that you can download, and there are some free scripts available that you can run to download all those photos and save them into a certain location that you want on your network anywhere. But they are stored in the Geo database, so when you download that and provide it to somebody else, it goes with the features. Yes. Any other questions? If you think of any others, we have a booth out here. More than happy to talk the rest of the conference. And thank you for coming.